Hey guys, we are live this morning, October 22nd. Diamond Talk, myself and Tommy Florio. We are back with the latest in baseball talk. We had a week off last week. We are back today live. Tommy, what's up, brother?
What's up, Joe Gansas? Baseball season, Joe. Baseball season.
How you doing, bro?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Great.
Joe, it's that time of year that's a little crisp outside, and people are hitting pads on Saturdays and Sundays, but we still got about 3 weeks of baseball left, and it's been quite the playoff NLCS, ALCS so far.
Yeah, really excited. I watched a lot of the games. Super pumped up this time of year as me and you as big baseball guys, and I just find the playoffs are just so exciting. And this year, just especially with the Phillies, just excitement every game.
Yeah, listen, no doubt. They've been both series got off 2-0s, I think it was, but both the teams that were down have battled back. And we got 3-2 going into Game 6 tonight and tomorrow night. And I think, Joe, if you're Major League Baseball, you couldn't ask for better. I mean, what they didn't want was obviously a 4-game sweeps. The
Right.
World Series, I think, is locked into starting next Friday, so you'd have all that time off. And people, I think people would lose interest, and it's not the marquee matchups. You don't have the New York teams or the LA teams. I mean, you run around with the Astros and the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, so it's played out. If you're baseball, you couldn't ask for better.
Yeah. What's your take on it? I love it when the small market teams, I mean, not so much small market, but Houston's been there. We got Philadelphia in a big market, but I like it when it's not the norm, over and over.
I'm with you. I like it. I don't mind. I don't mind what they call "quote unquote" small market teams, Joe. That doesn't bother me. I like good matchups. I like good teams. Like, I don't want teams to be in there and then they get their heads handed. Like, getting the Twins in there would have been a disappointment because I think they weren't ready. But no, I don't care. I don't care who gets in there. I just want good baseball. And yeah, if I could see a different matchup, if I could see two teams that haven't been there before, I'm all in. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, you just said there's some credence to that. I think if I'm, I don't know if you agree. Even though I picked Texas and the Braves, that didn't work out. But I think this Houston series is going to be with Houston. I just see them, losing the first 2 games and then winning the next 3. I think the momentum is in Houston's, dugout. Plus, they've been there,
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, listen, you got 2 great managers, guys who are both Hall of Famers in my book. And we'll talk a little bit about Hall of Fame managers in a little while, but these are 2 of the best. So, I don't think it's over, but you're 100% right. Baseball is all about momentum. It's not football where you play week to week and things can change. A lot of sports are this way. Baseball is the mother of all. You get on the roll, it is hard to get away from it. And I think there's a little bit of fireworks in that series. So yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think it's gonna be really difficult tonight for the Rangers to get back in this. But again, you go win tonight, and guess what? Now the Rangers have the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to bring something up. Usually, me and you talk during the week or before the show, but we haven't talked about this. So just give me a second, because I don't have you ever come to the thought that maybe have the Astros? I just feel like I don't put nothing past anybody. Do you think they could still be doing something wrong, like something illegal? Like I just, something tells me that something's not right. I don't know.
I don't know, Joe. That's a really good question. I mean, I'd have to think that they would be out of their minds to do that. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I mean, there was so many things talked about at the time. There was the year with the banging the garbage pail. There's a couple years later there was the wire inside of what's his name's jersey, the midget Altuve. So I don't know. I'd have to think they would completely be out of their minds, and I also would have to think that a guy like Dusty Baker would never go for it.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. But sometimes in life, when you get caught doing something, you say, they're not going to suspect us soon. Now let's keep going. I don't know. I just have this feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to see that. But I was just thinking about for a second, if they did get caught again, like what would be
my God, yeah, oh my God, yeah.
Like I think you'd have to really just send a message, like take away their World Series victories, take them away, erase them, and maybe you got to hit them hard. 10 years, no postseason.
I got to be honest with you, Joe. To me, there's only one punishment, and that would be a suspension of the entire team. Like no Astro baseball next year. Like they have to be suspended for the. Yeah, you have to. If they actually got caught doing it again, you couldn't find them. What are you going to do? Suspend the manager again? No way. To me, I like your idea. So to me, I think that's the lesser of the evils. But then what are they playing for? Down in the middle of next year, playing with no chance to make the postseason. What if they win? Does it even count? And then the second place team gets in. So to me, it's almost, and I don't think it's even possible. But the only real message you can send is the Astros do not play baseball next year. Anybody on their team can't go free agency. Yeah. Anybody on their team, can't be cut or play baseball anywhere next year.
Right.
And to me, it's if they got caught again, I mean, you'd have to. It would almost be going back to the Black Sox scandal. At that point, it would almost be to the point where anybody on the team would have to be thrown out of baseball for life. It would have to be, because you can't possibly get caught again doing something stupid. So I'd have to really believe that they're not doing anything dumb and hope for the best, because I'm no fan. And I don't know how much we've talked about it, but I still believe that there's no way in the world the player should have got off without suspensions from that. Okay, I thought that was the dumbest thing baseball did. And I get it that they would have had to suspend half the team.
Well, now, Tom, now you could be another team, and maybe you're saying, well, they didn't suspend them. Are they going to suspend me?
Precedent set. You've allowed it. You gave the players immunity. A couple people got suspended. The manager, Beltran, lost his job with the Mets as a manager. But to me, it wasn't enough. You cheated and won a World Series. You cheated. You didn't win. You got to the World Series. And to me, there's that's no worse than anything that's happened to Pet. That to me can't be any worse in this day and age than cheating that way. After they all were warned not to cheat that way. So to me, no. I'm going to go ahead and believe that they're just playing good baseball. The midget just comes up big. I mean, the the guy's got something where he just has a knack for the big spot. I mean, Jeter did it for years. Altuve hits home runs. I mean, I think the guy's got 25 postseason home runs in his career.
Yeah, he's actually cementing himself as an all-time great. I mean,
yeah, you'd have to, you'd be hard to argue that he's a really good player. Just one of those guys that I can't stand. Just one of those players I've never liked. And again, maybe it's because he tortures the Yankees. Kind of like the guy you're wearing on your chest right now.
Yeah.
George Brett. I hated George Brett. I couldn't stand. I wished every form of ugliness on him in his life growing up. But I think George Brett's one of the best players I've ever watched.
Yeah. I seen a couple of stats because I'm involved in these vintage baseball groups on Facebook.
Okay.
And they were putting him as one of the greatest second basemen of all time. I can't do that.
Pump the brakes on that stuff. Yeah, you got to pump the brakes on that stuff.
One Gold Glove. One Gold Glove.
Yeah, I mean, you want to say he's one of the best players of all time. I can live with it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and start looking at where his stats are and all that stuff. I don't ever walk away thinking the guy's a great second baseman.
Right.
Again, he gets big hits. His team wins, so he's got to get some juice up there. But it's kind of like the Jeter thing. Do I think Jeter's one of the greatest shortstops I've ever seen of all time? No, Jeter's not one of the greatest shortstops I've ever seen. Is Derek Jeter one of the best baseball players I've ever seen? Yes. Would he be my number one pick from that era? Absolutely. The guy wins big hits, comes up, makes big plays. Limelight's never too big for the guy. But it's the same for Altuve. But no, it's way too early to start put him in that category.
Yeah, he's got ice in his veins. Oh my god!
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like,
and that's huge. Yeah, think about it, Joe. I mean, if you're, when a lot of these guys who are great players get to big spots, they fold. And that's okay. It happens. Doesn't mean you're not a great player, but there's another level of player. And right now you're seeing it with Bryce Harper. I mean, we're talking, there's a guy who, I've questioned when the show first came on the air and said, I'm not sure about this guy, his legacy, big spots, and he has done everything he can. Now the one thing I will say that detracts for me is the guy has moved around a lot in his career. Started out as a catcher, moved to center field. Now he's at first base, and he's still a young guy.
Yeah.
I think that's one negative that I would have on him. The second negative would be, that coming up big in big spots. And I have to tell you, a little bit last year and a lot of it this year. The guy hits, and you can't get him out. You just can't get him out, and he's doing everything on the base paths. So
him and Schwarber. Oh my god.
Yeah, Schwarber's another one of those guys. I'm not sure how great a play that guy is, but I mean, he just hits bombs and just big spots. I mean, I'm a Philly fan right now. I'm going to root for the Phillies the rest of the way through. I wouldn't mind the Rangers win it. Don't get me wrong, but this Philly team is fun, and I think the Diamondbacks are just a little overmatched. Last night was a big game.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and the Diamondbacks are a good young team. They got some good young players, but this Philly team, I think, has got some juice right now, and I think it would really be a good World Series. Phillies, Astros, with all the firepower, the big names, Verlander. Talk about Zach Wheeler. I mean, the guy is just. You think the Mets made the wrong decision on which pitcher to let go?
Tom,
Jesus Christ.
When do the Mets make the right decision? Yeah,
it's a great question, Joe. It's a great question. I mean, you got 4 pitchers, and the one guy you let go is the only one who's turned out to be. I mean, they kept Harvey. He fell off the face of the earth. DeGrom's sitting in another dugout right now because he can't stay healthy.
Syndergaard.
And Syndergaard's bounced around now, and only thing he could say is, "I look good without my shirt on, with my long hair, my long blonde hair." So Zach Wheeler has turned into the best of those 4. And if you want to throw Steven Matz, we'll throw Matz and make it 5. And the guy is. I got a stats here. Like Wheeler, think of this from Wheeler real quick. He's got improved his career postseason ERA to 2.48 over 10 starts. Wheeler's .73 whip is the lowest by any pitcher in any 10-game span in postseason history, as well as the lowest by anyone with more than 50 innings pitched. He's one of only 5 pitchers to strike out 34 batters while walking 2 or fewer over a 4-game postseason stretch, joining Cliff Lee, Strasburg, and Beckett. And the only starters in playoff history with at least 60 innings and an ERA below 250 and a sub-1 whip and at least 1 strikeout per inning is Wheeler and Bob Gibson. That's pretty good, Joe, for a guy who was a cast-off a couple years ago.
You just said, so you have him and you have Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Look at their regular season. Clayton Kershaw is up in that Pedro Martinez win ratio. It's unbelievable in the regular season. I think he's
one game over 5. He's 1 game over 500 in a postseason.
He's 13-12.
Yeah. So what does that do to play, Joe? If I said to you tomorrow, Clayton Kershaw retires, what's his legacy?
Well, he's a Hall of Famer,
right? but there's going to be a but, right? There's going to be a but because you're going to say could have been better in the postseason, right?
Oh yeah,
and there's very few people, Joe, who you could say, okay, for their career, everything is even keel. I'm going to give you one, Mariano Rivera. Here's a guy who is the greatest regular season relief pitcher and the greatest postseason relief pitcher. That doesn't happen a lot. You don't get guys who contribute in both, and their legacy is. You can't give. I mean, he's got a couple nicks on him. I mean, the 97 gave up the home run to Alomar to lose that series to the Marlins. Was it the Marlins? The Indians. Indians, yeah. And then the 2001, the World Series. Short of that, the guy had a perfect career. Not very many people are going to have that. Zach Wheels would be the opposite. Not a great regular season pitcher, but get him in the postseason and he wins. Joe, what's Clayton Kershaw's?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about it. It's just a guy. I love watching him, and then something happens in the postseason where he's just average. Well, how do you go from being that dominant in a regular season to just being average?
I'll tell you why. Because you don't face top lineups every single day for a month like you do in the playoffs in the regular season. In the regular season, you get an occasional good series against another great team in the league, and then you get 4 or 5 series in a row where you're facing lesser talented teams. So it's easier to be talented and dominant in the regular season than it is in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, theoretically, you're facing the top 3 or 4 teams in your league and then the other top team in the other league. So it's not as easy. So there's, you can be a little, say, okay, he's not as great in the postseason, but he's facing much better teams in the postseason.
You don't think it's pressure with him?
Oh, could be. Why not? Sure, could be. Listen, why is a guy like Sonny Gray really good on a lot of teams, but goes to the Yankees and he looks like crap? Why is Randy Johnson a Hall of Famer, but ends up on the Yankees and looks like crap? Some people handle it and some people don't. So, I think it could be a little bit of pressure. Sure. Why not?
But you had a good question. How many pitchers have had great regular seasons? I mean, you mentioned Bob Gibson before. I bet you if you looked up his stats in the postseason, I think he's probably a great postseason pitcher, but not that many.
No. Again, you'd have to go back and look, and it's very difficult, Joe, to be that guy. There's, I'll put Jeter in that category. Jeter was a great regular season player, and he was a great postseason player. Did he have clunkers? They all did. Except probably for Rivera, but they all had clunkers. But that's the way it goes. But when I look at Kershaw, yes, he's a Hall of Famer. I can't not put him as a Hall of Famer. But there is a but in there where I could say, well, in the postseason where it really mattered and his team was winning 100 games a year, when they got there, he didn't necessarily perform the way he normally does. There is a little bit of something there.
You would have to say, we always ask, who do you want that guy pitching Game 7? He'd be the guy you probably want. You look at a guy like El Duque in the 90s for the Yankees.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent in postseason.
Yeah. That's it. Here's the guy who's probably the number 4 starter on that team. Yet in the playoffs, going into Cleveland, there was nobody I wanted pitching at that point.
Right.
Wells is a good pitcher. Obviously, you got Cone. You got Clemens. They're all great pitchers. But El Duque, some guys smell it, Joe. Some guys just get a little extra something, and there are guys like Wheeler who, and again, is 10 games a big span? I don't know, but it's a good enough size to say, this ain't 3-4 games and it's a fluke. I think
I know.
I think that's the question: is what's a good sample size? But to me, 10 games in the playoffs. I mean, think about it, 10 games in the playoff could really just be. I should say it's 10 starts, so not 10 games. Let me redo that. So 10 starts is a couple of years, and that to me gives you at least a little something to look at.
It's a good start, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. So, listen, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's Joe Gans. I'm Tom Florio. This is Diamond Talk, where every Sunday morning we're talking baseball and nothing but baseball. We don't bleed anything else into this. We just get up on Sunday morning. Joey dresses up in a different uniform, and we go out and talk baseball. And we'll do that for a while, and then I would say you'll get a brand new season with a lot more theatrics. Next year when we kick this off, probably in March.
Mm-hmm.
And just for the record, it looks like I'm going to be in Florida for 2 weeks in March. So just saying, if spring training baseball happens in March in Florida. Just saying, Joe.
That's been my dream for a long time is to retire and spend the whole month in March.
I agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. I'm going to look it up and see how close I am to which. I know I'm reasonably close to Kansas City. That's about an hour and a half there. They're in Orlando. I think I'm close to the Mets in Port St. Lucie. Yeah. So I know I'm close to a few. So I know Tampa's a little bit of a drive. I think that's 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken, from where I am. 2 hours and a half, 3 hours maybe. So anyway, just a thought, Joe. Diamond Talk live from spring training might be a nice touch next year. Just saying, Joe.
I was also thinking, because we've been talking to a couple of friends of ours of going to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
If we did that, we should do a mobile show somehow outside looking at the Hall of Fame.
Wow, that'd be interesting. If we do that in January, it might be a little cold.
Yeah, a little cold.
But you know what? There's a lot of little shops and stores around there. And it might not be that difficult in that January if that's what we decide to do.
Right.
To go up there and find a place that'll let us set up shop across the street. And do a show and have some fun. So listen, I got the mobile gear. I can throw it right in the bag. I bring everything up. I got mics. I got it all. We can certainly set up shop and do an hour and a half up there. Either way, we will do so. If we decide to go up there, I would say we'll do a show from up there and have some fun. And I don't know which of our friends are going to come up with us and if it's all going to happen, but we'll definitely see, Joe. But right now, Joe, we got a lot. We still got big baseball games coming up tonight. I think what's your thought? Do both series extend to Game 7? Which one is more likely to extend to Game 7?
I think probably. I don't think either one go to 7. I think it's. I think it's. I think these teams did what they could, but if any one goes to 7, I think tonight's game might go to 7. But I see the World Series now as Houston and the Phillies. That's my.
I agree. I think tonight's series. I think Evaldi will come out and pitch a good game. I think this series, the ALCS will go 7. I think the NLCS is over. I can't imagine the Diamondbacks coming back at this point. I think the Phillies have way too much momentum. I think Diamondbacks are going home tomorrow night. I think the Rangers and the Astros will go to Game 7, and that will be a fun game to watch. And I do. I think I think the fireworks is huge. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the fireworks in that series, Joe. Would you mind?
No, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So uh, the kid, Adalis Garcia hits a huge home run. I love to play it here. I love to play the whole thing. We don't have rights to do it. I don't want to get us thrown off the air. The kid hits a tremendous home run, big spot. I mean, really, but early in the game. This isn't like it's the 8th and 9th. You didn't win it on this. And I get that this is an age deal where it's different. Guys showboating, flipping bats, all the theatrics that go with it. That's all. I guess it's part of the game now. I'm not a big fan of it. You hit a home run, put your head down, run around the bases, shake hands. If you walk off with it, dude, you can skip, hop, jump, you can pirouettes, do whatever you want. But you're in the 6th inning of a game. You put your team ahead. You didn't win it. So having said that, I don't like the fact he walked up the line, threw the bat, the whole bit, the way he crossed the plate. And if I am the Astros, I will absolutely put a ball in his ear if I'm them. And I don't know if I agree with doing it in this game with the way that the way it was going and all that. Maybe they would already thought this game was over. I'm not sure, but the reaction by Garcia, Joe, is what I want. I'm sorry to drag this out, but the reaction by Garcia to get upset and be mad and almost like it wasn't expected after his theatrics is the worst part of that. Like the reaction by him to be indignant to the fact that he got hit because he showboated. That's the problem with baseball today. You don't like it? Go on to first base, steal second, steal third, and score in front of the guy.
I don't understand. You just hit a home run, and if you watch the replay, he held the bat halfway down first. He flips it. Okay, you want to do that? If I'm him and I go up next, I'm actually saying to myself, I'm getting something. It's okay. It didn't hit you. It's okay. Just take it like a man. Like this whole society of I call it kids. It's almost these kids are supposed to be grown men. Everybody's all bulked up. Who's tough guy? Who's lifting the most weights? Who's got the biggest muscles? Just take a pitch. Mark McGwire got hit 80 times, never charged him out. And you know why? He said it's part of the game. Just and you didn't get hit. Just take it and go. And plus, there was a guy on first base when it happened.
I agree. And Joe, you know what? All he did at that point was fire up the Astros. Like to me, that was the sign from the Astros that we've given up. The game is over. The momentum's gone. You got all the momentum. I'm throwing at you, putting you on base in a game we're losing by 2 runs. This game is over. And then he fires up the Astro dugout. The guy gets thrown out. Baker gets thrown out. He's fired up. So what did you do? All you did, if you're Garcia, is fire up the Astros, and then you lose the game. And like you said, momentum now just went completely over to the Astros. To me, it's a dumb thing by Garcia.
Yeah, well, it's and we talked about this in the beginning of the show how the Astros have more experience here. Maybe it's still learning to these guys. We got to be macho, but you just hit this home run. You showboated. You got to expect something.
That's it, Joe. You just said. I was going to just say you got to. If you're Garcia, you're going up there. You walk down the line. Slam the bat to the ground, and then crossing the plate. You were doing like the one step at a time thing. Joe, you got to come up the next time saying, I'm getting one in the ear right here. Like there's one coming upstairs. The fact that they hit him, if they were throwing for the rib cage and he caught it in the arm, he's a lucky guy as far as I'm concerned. Frank Catalano, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Do you think that those kind of guys, I mean, I'll even come a little further. Do you think that Pedro Martinez or Roger Clemens would have put up with that guy doing that spot? Joe, come on. It's ridiculous.
Oh, no. And look what Frank said. Frank brought up 2 of the best ever to do that. Bob Gibson and Don Drysdale. If I'm going up against them, I'm actually saying I'm going to get hit.
Well, think about it. Bob Gibson threw out a guy once for digging in. He got in the box and dug in, and he said, "All right, I'm hitting you now. I'm going to hit you for that." I mean, that's and you know what? And I'm okay with it, because if you want, on the other side, have your guy throw out the next at somebody on his team, and then they're going to tell him, "Don't do that anymore," or go out there and beat the guy, and then it's who gives a shit. But the reaction of Garcia was mind-boggling to me, and that's the problem with baseball, sports in general today. Is I'm a big believer in sports, especially baseball. They should administer their own justice. Keep it off the keep it out of the mat. What's next? You're going to come out and have the guy arrested for throwing at you? That's the next thing, Joe. The cops are going to come in the dugout, and the kid Abreu is going to get arrested for throwing a baseball at a guy. Because you're basically saying he did it on purpose, right? So if I was in the street and I threw a baseball at you on purpose, you would say I was assaulted. So why not just arrest the guy?
Me and my brother watching the game Friday night, and I'm sitting here. I'm saying, "Can you believe this?" He just shaking his head. I mean, this is the mentality today of these players. It's almost, it takes away so much when we love the game, like me and you and other people. We just watching them and saying, "Come on."
Yeah. Yeah, I first off, I've never been a big and Frankie, you're 100% right. But it's today's game. Like even in football, and not to bring football into, but score a touchdown, flip the ball to the referee. They used to get on people for kneeling. I mean, they used to get on Tebow for kneeling and saying a prayer after you score a touchdown.
Barry Sanders. Sanders.
Just and I always say the same thing. Act like you've done it before. Just act like you've done this before, and you tell me you hit a game-winning, series-clinching home run. Dude, do whatever you got to do. I get it. The emotions are incredible, but you hit a regular season home run, and Alonso and a lot of people like that, Frankie. They act like a third inning home run in May is the greatest home run of all time. I'm sorry, you just act like you've been there, and if you're gonna do it, please expect the fact that somebody's going to put a ball somewhere in your ear or rib cage, and you deserve it.
We talk about sometimes changing moments in a series. If the Rangers lose, Tom, can we say that was
Yes. The Astros were done. I would tell you the Astros were done at that point, and that moment. Not the fact that he hit the home run and showboated. Not at all. It's the fact that he caused a bench-clearing brawl, got the managers ejected, got the pitcher ejected, and fired up the other team. That's the game. If they lose that series, you can point it directly to that for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
absolutely.
Inexperience.
Yeah. Well, but Joe, it's not just inexperience. It's the state of the mind of today's players.
Oh, yeah.
They all are entitled children who think, "Oh, my God, I don't want to get my uniform dirty. You can't hit me. You can't." Joe, today you can't slide into a guy. You can't take a guy at second base. You got to give yourself up. Is that why don't we just hand out participation trophies and we all go home? Because that's what the game has turned into. I am shocked that Harper's steal of home last night wasn't a bigger deal. That he caught the catcher in the head. I swear to God, I for sure thought he was going to get called out immediately for that for some reason. You can't take out a guy in a double play now, okay? You got to give yourself up. Well, I don't understand any of that, but for them players, it's the player mentality now. That's the problem. You can't slide into me. You can't hit me. Come on, Joe. This is not the game I grew up loving.
No, and the Buster Posey was the one who changed that. If you remember,
yes, yeah, up to 100%.
You have the guy with the most equipment on. That's not baseball to me. I want to see as a manager. I want to see my catcher getting barreled over and holding a ball in his hand, and then going over to the runner and give him a high five and say, "Good play."
Listen, you chose the position.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens when you're the catcher is you have to block the plate, and the guy coming to get to the plate has the ability to get to the plate any way he's got to do it. And if you choose not to block the plate, then don't block the plate. Choose another position. But to me, that the fact that you can't barrel over the catcher or you can't slide into second base and take out a guy, it just changes the way the game's played, and I don't like it.
Yeah, the second base has really gotten me pissed off too, because that's some more strategy just gone south. I mean, you can't take this guy out. It's been done for decades and decades.
Yeah. Listen, and again, if a guy goes in hard or goes in with the spikes up, okay, then guess what? You do it to his shortstop or second baseman, or when he comes to the plate, put one in his rib cage or hit him in the ass with a ball and let him know that wasn't good. That wasn't good to do. But to take it out of the game, it to me, you might as well just play automatics. Oh, you hit a ground ball to second baseman, everybody's out, double play. I mean, what are we playing? We played automatics when we were kids because you didn't have enough guys on the field.
Right.
You got grown men making millions of dollars. The least paid player on that field is making $800,000 a year. Least paid. Guy came up from the minors yesterday. He's getting $800,000 a year. Okay. After taxes, he's probably going home with $4.550. Okay. How many years does it take all of us to make $550,000 taking home? Right. 5, 6 years? I don't want to hear about his career. Screw his career. You play the game. And that's what irks me about baseball today.
It's a game. It's a game that's supposed to be represented by men, but it's run by kids sometimes.
Yeah. And again, I like, here's why I liken it to the fact that kids don't play baseball in the street anymore. Okay. We play baseball in the street. And how did you deal with stuff? It was street justice. It was just, you were out there. And if you slid into me hard, I was going to slide into you hard. And I never, ever, ever remember in my entire little league, sandlot, men's leagues, never remember getting mad at a guy for sliding in hard or somebody throwing at me. It just was part of the game. Yeah. And the next time I went in, I would take somebody else out hard. Dude, that's just the way the game. And if you didn't like it, you said something. But to outlaw it or for these guys, I'm rooting for the Rangers. I can't possibly root any harder for a team than the Rangers right now, right? I picked them to go to the World Series. I'm rooting for them against the midget and his team. I'm all for it. But you almost deserve to lose now because of one guy's arrogance and sensitivity. And that's all I can tell you it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. After that play, I'm actually sitting there and I was just thinking back of the history in a way. I'm saying, so sad how we've gotten here. But Tom, listen, it ain't over now, bro.
No.
There's gonna be more rules. You'll see.
No, you're right, Joe, and it changes. And I listen. There are only a couple of rules. I love the pitch clock. I do. I don't think it should be necessary if the umpires would just enforce the regular rules. But there are things that I like and don't like. But I don't like the wussification of baseball and not being able to take out the catcher and not being able to slide into second base and take a guy out. Having to give yourself up if it's is all bullshit to me. So am I going to watch the game? I do because I love it. Do I like guys showboating? I don't. It's been part of the game for years. I mean, but if you're going to do it, you should expect. And to me, like I said, Joe, you said it right. If they lose this series tonight, you can go back to the 6th inning of that game and point your finger at that one player who changed the momentum and changed the entire game for his team. And for me, you can't say that that cost them the series, but I'll say that it cost them the series.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's going to be that deciding factor now. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we are live on Diamond Talk. Myself, my boy Tommy Florio, every Sunday morning. You wanted to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame committee, and there's about 4 or 5 managers. I think they got Joe West on there, also an umpire.
Yep, I got a list for you. But Judge Frank Catalano, you're right. When you have Pete Rose taking out Ray Fosse in an all-star game, Pete Rose caused a huge fight with taking out Buddy Harrelson. And go look up Frank White taking out Willie Randolph. He was about 4 feet behind the bag taking him out. So that's the way you play the game. And if you don't like it, then you deal with it.
If you there's a story about that, Pete Rose and Ray Fosse. the night before they had dinner together.
That's correct. They were friends. Yeah. They were friends. Yeah. That's the way you played the game, Joe.
Yeah,
That's the way
yeah,
you played the game.
yeah.
That's the problem. That's the way you played the game. You didn't care if it was your best friend or whatever. When it came time, you went out there and you took the guy out and you did what you had to do. And this is an all-star game. This ain't the World Series. It was an all-star game.
Could Pete Rose survive in today's game?
No. Joe, we can go down the list of guys who could not play today. Not because they're not talented enough, but because the way they played the game. Yeah. I mean, think about it. You go back to the days of Ty Cobb, sharpening his spikes so he could slide in and gouge your legs out. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a whole different era of baseball. I don't know if it's a better era of baseball, but it's still the game we love, and we do it. But to your point, Joe, there's a list of now. Before we get in, I am tired of these different committees. Yeah, good job, Patrick Cooper. Yeah, want to bet if you could. Yeah, I got you. Good one there. Another committee, Joe, and to me, I don't like all these. What's this committee called? Hold on, this is another committee.
Veterans.
This is Hall of Fame's Contemporary Era Committee. That's the name. This is not the Veterans Committee that meets every few years.
Yes, I want the Polish Committee. Where's that coming up soon?
Yeah. So this, in addition to the four managers who are Jimmy Leland, Cito Gaston, Davey Johnson, and Lou Piniella. And Leland also, right? Yeah.
Leland. Yeah.
Yeah. So this must be five. In addition to managers, you have umpires Joe West and Ed Montague, former NL President Bill White, former General Manager Hank Peters, 16 voters will be announced closer to the meeting, and 75% of vote. Anyone chosen to be inducted into the Hall of Fame next July 21st. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see. Let me give you, there was something else in here I wanted to tell you. I want to see how when this committee meets. I think it's every few years, not every year. Anyway, so Joe, I'll run it down for you one time. You got Jimmy Leland, 78 years old, won 1,769 games over 22 seasons with 5 teams. He led the Marlins to the World Series in 97. He was voted Manager of the Year in 1990, 92, and 2006. And he managed the U.S. to the 2017 World Baseball Classic. I don't know what his winning percentage was. Do you want to know what his winning percentage was? Do you need to know what his winning percentage was?
No, because I know what kind of manager he was.
Okay, so here's the question. I would say in face value, Jimmy Leland's a Hall of Fame manager. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame already?
Right. So what is this committee going to do?
I don't know. That's the question. So, but to me, if he hasn't made the Baseball Writers Hall of Fame committee, why are we here? Like, I'm not sure why he's not. Looking at that right now, and on the list, I have the list of.
Okay.
He's number 18 all time with wins.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Joe.
No, I just don't know what we're going to do next. Now, are we going to bring guys like the? Are we going to have are we going to bring Dave Parker and Mattingly and Murphy in another class soon?
I don't know.
I've been talking about this, and I'm so big on this, and people agree or don't agree about if you don't get on your first try, but whatever. These players and managers, they've had their shot. I don't know what we're doing here.
I'm not sure either, Joe. Yeah, I don't know. I think to me, if you want to have a committee, it's kind of like the pro football one, and I think that they do it every year, but they go in and they find one guy who might have gotten overlooked. Okay. All right, and like Joe Klecko. Like Joe Klecko's Hall of Famer. Right. Why Joe Klecko never got in, I'll never know. That's a whole different show. So I don't have a problem if you want to meet every couple of years and say, hey, for some reason, Eddie Murray took forever or Jim Rice took forever. Why? Because they weren't screw the. So if you want to have a committee that just kind of oversees and they come out and say, no, everybody's good right now. From this point on, those guys are out. We went back and checked everybody. But to come up now and Jimmy Leland, Lou Piniella, Davey Johnson, Tito Gasson, they've all had their opportunity to get to get there. Why didn't they? So now we got to start a committee to find reasons to put Harold Baines in.
Yeah, I don't think Davey Johnson is a Hall of Fame manager.
No, not at all.
I love Piniella. I mean, if you're gonna put two guys on the list, it's not Gaston, even though he
won 800 games.
I know,
he won 800 games. That's it.
Yeah,
I get the 2 World Series. I get the 2 World Series. I got it. But I get it. That's only part of the puzzle.
Yeah, I'd have to put in Piniella and Leland there. But again, I don't like these committees at all.
I agree. I don't like them either. But if you want to tell me every 3 to 5 years, a bunch of guys get together and they just double check to make sure. And Frankie, you're right. Randy Gradishar is a Hall of Famer. I watched the guy play. I get it. So I don't mind a committee that goes back and picks somebody who might have gotten missed or might be overlooked because he was an asshole. And the guy, look at Albert Bell. Albert Bell was a great player.
Yeah.
Should he be a Hall of Famer? Maybe, but he's not getting a sniff because he was the biggest asshole there was.
Yeah.
So he's not getting a sniff. So I don't have a problem, but you can't have the Veterans Era Committee. You can't have, let's see, Joe. What's this one called again? I just want to make sure I get it right. The Contemporary Era Committee for Managers and Executives and Umpires. I mean, what's next? The New Era Committee for Chefs, Trainers, and Grounds Crew. I mean, what's next, Joe? I mean, at some point you're going to have to be on a committee, Joe. They don't have enough people to put on them, and you're going to have to be on the committee. I just mean serious. It is so watering down the Hall of Fame that it's. And again, do I think Lou Piniella is a Hall of Famer? I kind of do. I would put him in, or he would make the cut. But the fact that the baseball writers took a guy who won a World Series, won 1,800 games. Just the problem for me is just a little over 500 in the winning percentage.
Right.
I mean, to me, you got to be high fives into the 6, But I look the rest of the managers, Joe. I mean, some of the greats of all time: Tony La Russa, 536; Connie Mack, 480. The guy won 3,700 games. He lost 3,900. I mean, different era. I get it. Connie Mack had 9 pennants and 5 World Series in an era where, again, you won the regular season, you won the World Series. So
look at the team he had. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people on this list. I mean, I'm going to expand just for a second. Buck Showalter won 1,700 games. He's right behind Leland and Piniella. Is Buck Showalter Hall of Famer? No World Series, no appearances in the World Series. I'm not even sure he managed in the playoffs, let alone
did he win 4 times Coach of the Year?
Probably, but that's not on this list. That doesn't show me that on this list I'm looking at. But again, these guys were all. Tito Gasson, no. Davey Johnson, I don't care how many games he won. Davey Johnson's not a Hall of Fame manager. No. Just not. Yeah, I mean, he won 1,300 games, had a .562 winning percentage, which is not bad. I don't know what ties are.
Thanks to Bill Buckner.
Yeah, and and he had a World Series. He's not a Hall of Famer. Davey Johnson's not a Hall of Fame manager. Tito Gatson's not a Hall of Fame manager. Now, I don't know what case you're going to make for Piniella or Leland that they didn't make back in the day. Now, let me ask you something, Joe. Can you take Lou Piniella's baseball career and add it to this, or is it strictly going in as a manager? Like Joe Torre got in because he was a good manager and he was a really good player, and it put him in as a combined thing. Can you do the same with Lou Piniella?
Well, don't forget Joe Torre won an MVP in 1970, so he had like a 370 batting average that year. He was. Torre is on that verge, if you agree, of that just about a great player, just about.
Yeah, Dale Murphy, Dave Parker. Yeah, same kind of guy. Yeah,
because Piniella was a very good player. I think I never thought he was a great player. I thought he was clutch sometimes, but you have to go just a managerial status here. No,
I would say that's what this committee's about. This committee is the Contemporary Era Committee for Managers, Executives, and Umpires. And And there's all sorts of rules. Like you have to wait 5 years unless you're 65. Then you have to wait. Then you can get in 6. I swear to God, Joe. There's all sorts of stuff here. Okay, so each committee meets every 3 years, starting with contemporary baseball players last December, when Fred McGriff got in there. Classic baseball, that's another committee, meets in December 24, and contemporary baseball players in December of 25. Now, listen, there's more. Managers and umpires were eligible if they had 10 or more big league seasons and have been retired for 5 years, though people 65 and over are eligible 6 months after retirement. Executives must be retired for 5 years, but active executives 70 or older are eligible. Joe, this is this.
Hold on. I'm writing everything down.
You're writing it all down?
I'm confused. I'm
so
busy.
You have to wait 5 years unless you're 65. Then you can get in 6 months. Is it so you can get in? See, here's what it's all about, Joe. And there's nothing more to it. Cooperstown puts pressure on the Hall of Fame to put as many people in as possible, live people, because the more live people go in, the more people show up in July. And their entire existence is that week and weekend,
of course,
once a year. So that's where this comes. Joe, there are the baseball writers, and then there are at least 3 committees that meet every so often to put players in who didn't get in on the original committee.
Right. We should do a diamond talk. We should do a diamond talk committee.
Yeah, I think we have it. We just have to add more people. Maybe we'll ask Frankie to get in. We'll have a diamond talk committee. We'll meet every year, and we'll vote our own players. Joe, listen, I don't get it.
I've been saying this, that everything in sports comes down to money. It's about money. It's about that weekend in July. It's about the Cooperstown game. It's about money. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I get it, but there has to be something. There has to, if you're going to have a Hall of Fame, and we talked about this a million times, but I can't say it enough. If you're going to have a Hall of Fame, it needs to be the elite of the elite. Otherwise, just call it the regular baseball Hall of Fame guys who played every year, and we're going to put up a museum for them. Because you're just putting in guys to put people in. And it's like football. Football puts in 7 guys a year, and it's just everybody gets in. You might as well just say, go ahead. I mean, guys like Kurt Warner in the Hall of Fame. Just ridiculous people get in. And it's. I'd like to go back, and I'm going to challenge you on this one. We're going to go back, each of us, for next week's show, okay? And go back to the first time the Hall of Fame put somebody in who didn't deserve it.
I think it happened this year too.
Well, I'm not saying it has, but when if you go back to those early ones, I mean, think about it. Mickey Mantle, Phil
Rizzuto.
Well, that's the one I'm pointing to, because Pee Wee Reese got in before him. So it's right after, because Rizzuto got in on a veterans committee. They Ted Williams got him elected into the Hall of Fame. So, but Pee Wee Reese had gotten in before that. But there were guys like, I think Mantle got on the first ballot. Whitey Ford was a second ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, you'd have to go back. I'm going to go back and look and say, when was the first year somebody got in and you went, you got to be kidding me. That guy's a Hall of Famer? And see when it changed and see where it went from there. And how many times it was one person or 2 people put in. Baseball usually does 3 or 4 people, and I'm not talking about, putting in sports writers or announcers. I'm just talking about guys who played the game. And to me, the Pee Wee Reese and the Rizzuto era, that's where it started for me. Because after that, the floodgates opened.
Oh yeah. I think with Scott Rowland too, it just happened.
Yeah. Fred McGriff. I mean, I like Fred McGriff. The Crime Dog was a good player, but Don Mattingly was a better ball player than Fred McGriff, and I can't put Don Mattingly in.
I think this year Todd Helton got 72%. They're saying he's going to make it next year, but I don't know how they know this, but
because you could smell it. Because sometimes you add up the votes and you say so and so voted for these guys. Next year there's only these guys eligible, and Helton's going to get his vote, and that gets him over the top. You get 72% this year, you're getting 75% next year. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. And there's Todd Helton. No, Harold Baines is not. There's another committee guy who got in off one of the committees because Tony La Russa went to bat for the guy. I get it, but then it becomes it's not the Hall of Fame. It's not the greats of the greats of the greats. But it's not about that anymore. It's about putting people in Cooperstown, New York. I've been there a couple times. I've gone to 2 induction ceremonies, and the place is jam packed. You can't park anywhere. The first time I went, Joe, I stayed in an old funeral home, was converted into like a motel or a B&B, whatever you want to call it. And we slept 5 of us in basically one room. Me, my dad, my uncle Bob, and my sons crammed into one room because that's all we could get to go to that. So again, it's a great experience. Have you ever gone to an induction weekend?
No, but I've been there in '98 with my father. It was great. It was great.
It's great. I've been there off season. I've been there to 2 inductions, and the place is crawling with people. It's great. I was there for Andre Dawson's, and I was there for somebody else. Second one might have been Maddox.
When I was there, we met an old Yankee who was a rookie of the year, Tommy Tresh.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, I had a connection up there, and he got us a spot on the golf course. There's a golf course. They all play golf that morning. And they would all come around to this guy's house. So my friend set us up in this guy's backyard, and they tee off, I don't know, it's 9th hole or whatever right there, and they will all pass you. And
Wow,
my sons got to talk to Andre Dawson and Tim Raines. They came over. They were bullshitting with my sons. They were the nicest human beings you ever want to meet as far as that goes. And I got to meet so many. I got to sit with Dale Murphy for a half hour and just bullshit with Dale Murphy. Joe, I couldn't ask him 2 questions. I was so starstruck. It was me and him at a table. He was signing autographs, and he's like trying to talk to me, and I didn't know what to say to the guy. And this is one of my favorite players growing up. Absolutely one of my favorite players. But Frankie, I'm sure that's probably a good one. I'm going to go back and take a look this week and just see if I find when it happened that guys got in who just didn't belong. And like I said, it diminishes. It diminishes what the place represents. You can't tell me that Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Harold Baines belong in the same building.
No, absolutely not.
So it's just, and if you got to create committees, Joe, to put people in, maybe just don't put people in. But think about it. I think there was a year not too long ago that they didn't put anybody into Cooperstown.
I think 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, there was a year I think either nobody went in or they just put in like a baseball writer or something.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you're Cooperstown, New York, you're fuming because that their whole existence is that one weekend every year. The place is packed. There's thousands of people running around in town. I can't even imagine. I don't know who's the next guy to go in, Joe, that breaks all the records. Like who's the guy that is going to get elected to the Hall of Fame? I mean, I should have been Jeter, but that was during COVID.
Well,
who's the guy who just blows the place up?
Is it Pujols?
That's a good one. Yeah, the St. Louis fans will travel. Yeah, that's a pretty good one, sure.
I think 2025 we have Ichiro's first year.
Yep, and you're going to get Cabrera, who's going to go in a few years.
Who else are we going to get soon? I just seen somebody else recently. Just retired, but those guys are getting in on the first try.
They should. I mean, again, there are players who listen. There are downsides to everybody's career. I mean, just very few guys go through and don't have that career. But if you're a Hall of Famer, Clayton Kershaw has got some downside, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. When he shuts it down, you can nag on the postseason record. You can say he's didn't stay healthy all the time, but Clayton Kershaw is a Hall of Famer. So when he gets in, and Verlander's going to go in there, there's another guy getting in there. Yeah, there's a few coming, but baseball in Cooperstown want 3-4 guys every year. And if they got to create the Diamond Talk committee so we can vote people in, Joe, that will be next because that's where it's headed. I don't know what else to say it.
I think we put in Frank Catalano first for being a big Met fan.
That's it. Frankie Catalano as the guy who's got a lot of time on his hands to listen to us talk.
That's the question right there, Frankie asked. That's always the question. That's always the question. Good question, Frank.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think Kenny Hernandez was a really good player. I think he was never I never thought Keith Hernandez was the best player or top 5 player in baseball. Don Mattingly was the best player in baseball, but it was only for 6 years. It wasn't long enough. They are not tied together. I think you could put Mattingly in and not put Hernandez in. But that's my opinion. I thought Keith was a really good player. I never thought he was a great player, and I never thought he was the best player in baseball or a top 5 player in baseball.
I think I really believe this with Mattingly. He was so great those 5 years, 84 to 89, right? Is that what we're going? Probably 84.
Yeah,
so,
yep.
I think, Tom, if he played another 3 years,
oh yeah,
I think he would have cemented himself as a Hall of Famer. But both are so close. But we did some stats recently. I was comparing him to Murphy. Out of those type of players, Mattingly has the best stats.
Yeah, but I see now. Keith changed the game. Yeah, see, no, Joe, Frankie, I think he was a great first baseman. Absolutely, but I don't. I don't know. Was there that big a difference between him and Mattingly as a first baseman? It wasn't. It was so close.
Two Gold Gloves. I mean,
yeah,
11 to 9.
But Mattingly was a much better hitter, much better all-around hitter than Hernandez was.
Yeah.
I mean, Hernandez was a good average hitter, but was not big on home runs and doubles. And there's very few people that I think get into the Hall of Fame because of their glove. Ozzie Smith was one. Ozzie Smith to me was an average hitting shortstop who was by far the best fielder I have ever seen. Made the greatest play I have ever seen, other than Jim Edmonds over the head catch. You ever see Ozzie Smith one-handed diving? Yeah, okay. But Ozzie Smith was a Hall of Famer because of his glove, not because of his bat, but it was good enough with the bat to get into the Hall of Fame. Keith Hernandez was not good enough with the glove to me to make it into the Hall of Fame.
Even 11 Gold Gloves?
Again, Joe, great first baseman, no doubt about it. But his bat just wasn't good enough. I don't know. It just wasn't. To me, let's look again. Would I tell you that if Ozzie Smith wasn't in the Hall of Fame, it was okay? Sure. I never thought Ozzie Smith was a top 5 player in his era. To me, you have to be top 5 in your era to even be considered. That's how it should be. That's not how it is.
Well, a guy that just passed away last month, the human vacuum cleaner, he had 16 Gold Gloves, but he wasn't that standout as a hitter because I was looking at his stats. So maybe this little guy that his defense propelled him to the hole.
Yeah, I mean, look at Frank. You bring up MVP. Dale Murphy, I think, won 2, if not 3 MVP. Dale Murphy won 2 MVPs, but he played on a shit team, and his stats grow off at the end. To me, Keith Hernandez is not Dale Murphy, and Dale Murphy's not a Hall of Famer.
I think Keith shared MVP in '79 with somebody. If I'm not,
was it Stargell?
I think Stargell.
I didn't want to say Stargell because the Pirates won the World Series that year.
I think he shared MVP. Yeah.
Again, I think Keith Hernandez was a really good player, but Don Mattingly was the best player in the American League for 5, probably 6 years, bar none. It wasn't even close. Nobody was as good as Don Mattingly. He was a great first baseman and absolutely the best hitter in the league. And do I think he's better than Kirby Puckett? Kirby Puckett was a really good player. He should not be a Hall of Famer. If Kirby Puckett's a Hall of Famer, so is Dave Parker, so is Dale Murphy, and probably so is Don Mattingly. But they're not in, and they probably shouldn't get in.
I even think us having this conversation this long should tell you somebody's not worth it. Because if you have to, my father always told me this, and it was so true. When you say somebody's name, right away you should think, if you got to lobby for them over and over and over, maybe that person doesn't belong.
If I have to convince you he's a Hall of Famer, listen. I always say this: eye test. I watched the guy play, and either he was or he wasn't. Now again, everybody's opinions are different, and all of that. But if there's a question mark, I go to the stats. Okay, how many? I didn't realize he hit 500 homers. I didn't realize he hit 350 for his career. But when you watch a player play, I watched George Brett play. He was a Hall of Famer. I watched, so-and-so play. There are question marks. And to be honest with you, I thought for sure for years Dale Murphy was Hall of Fame. Dale Murphy's Hall of Fame. I went looking at the stats and went, it's a little underwhelming.
Yes.
It's a little underwhelming. But I didn't watch him play every day. He played in Atlanta when they were terrible. So when did I see him play? When he played the Mets? That's when I saw Dale Murphy get to watch him play, or on This Week in Baseball on Sunday mornings. I mean, that's the time I saw Dale Murphy. So my idea was askew. So yeah, Joe, your dad couldn't be more right. If I say somebody's name and you go Hall of Famer, if you don't say it within seconds, it's not. He's probably not a Hall of Famer.
I'm a Reds fan. You know that. I don't think Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer.
No, definitely not. No, I agree. I agree, but. Again, in today's day and age, if Mattingly or Hernandez or Dale Murphy played today, they would be automatic Hall of Famers because they'd be all over TV. You'd see their highlights every night on TV. Because think about it, Joe. What do you see every night? You see all their best plays. You don't see the errors. You don't see the offers. You see, 4 nights a week, they hit a home run, they won a game. So it's always in your head every day. Social media, TV, so Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer because you see his bunch of highlights every year and you go, he must be a good player.
I think the one guy who I wish would have got in, and that's Dave Parker. I looked at his stats recently, almost 2,800 hits, 300 lifetime. I think he should have got in, but
hold on. I have done this. I have done this as well.
Yeah, I think I remember his stats being good.
Okay, so let's see, Joe. Dave Parker, his 162 game average, which I love to look at. So if he took his whole career and divided it, he would have 84 runs a year, 178 hits, 35 doubles, 5 triples, 22 homers, 98 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, and he hit 290 for his career as an average. So do I think Dave Parker is a Hall of Famer? Boy, it's close.
Right, it's close.
Let's see. He's
probably not if you got to think about it.
Well, 340 homers.
How many hits?
2,700 hits. Joe, I always thought Dave Parker was a Hall of Famer. I always did. So that's one guy. And I look at the stats, 340 homers, 2,700 hits, a 290 average. You compare him to some of the guys who are going in, he's a Hall of Famer. Now, why isn't he in? I don't know. Let's see, he's got
Pittsburgh.
He's got an MVP.
Any Gold Gloves?
3 Gold Gloves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 3 Silver Slugger awards. And beside the MVP, he had an MVP 3 and an MVP 2. So he had 2 other seasons that he was close to winning an MVP. I would tell you Dave Parker's a Hall of Famer. Based on a lot of this stuff, this is a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, and I don't know why he's not. Try to see what's his put. You have much in the postseason? Fielding. Let's see.
Tom, it could be a lot of things, and I hate to say this, but I'm allowed to say this. It could be a prejudice thing. I don't know. You never know what these sports writers are thinking.
Well, what kept Jim Rice out? Jim Rice was a Hall of Famer. I mean, what kept Jim Rice out was that he was everybody. The writers didn't like the guy.
Eddie Murray too. Eddie Murray didn't talk to the press either.
Right. So and they kept them out for years. Guys who to me were no brainers, but they eventually got in. I think Parker, when you go through and you look at it, 19 years. It's a little, but people always say, well, did he stick around? Is he a numbers guy? When you take his 162 game average, it's borderline Hall of Fame. I mean, that era, 22 home runs was a lot a year. Think about it. 78, I think Greg Nettles won the home run title with 32.
Right.
Guys just didn't hit 40 every year. It just didn't happen. If you did, you had 1 or 2 guys doing that. Most guys were hitting in the 20s. So, again, the guy's averaging 98 RBIs, 22 homers, and 35 doubles a season. That's not bad. That's a pretty good average for your career. A lot of strikeouts, 101 a season, 45 walks, only 10 stolen bases, and a really good right fielder. I would say for his era, one of the best arms I've ever seen, and a really good outfield. So, yeah, I'm not sure why Dave Parker is not in the Hall of Fame. He's got an MVP. He's got 3 Silver Sluggers, which is good, and 2 Gold Gloves. So it's pretty good. I got to be honest with you. Yeah, so that one surprised me. just bear with me for a second as I do Dale Murphy. I have to check out Dale Murphy one more time.
Tom, I got a guy. You're gonna call me crazy. After Murphy, look up Kenny Lofton. His stats surprised me. It really did.
Okay.
Over 600 stolen bases.
Okay, so Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Murphy played 18 years. His average over 162 is 157 hits, 26 doubles, 3 triples, 30 homers a year, 94 RBIs, but only a 265 batting average. Okay. Now he's got 2,100 hits, almost 400 homers.
How many years? How many years did he play?
18 years, Joe. 18. Okay. He's got 2 MVPs. He's got 4 Silver Slugger awards. Only 1 Gold Glove, which surprises me. No, I'm sorry. He's got 5 Gold Gloves. 5 Gold Gloves, 4 Silver Sluggers, 2 MVPs. No other close on the MVP votes. His last couple years weren't great. I think the problem for Murphy is from 34 to 37, his numbers are not good. He had such a great run, and then all of a sudden in 1990, at the age of 34, he just fell off the face. He only played 97 games, 57 games, 153 games, and 153 game numbers are horrendous. 18. So his years with the Phillies and the Rockies were not great. So again, they're good numbers, but 2,100 hits.
Right.
400 homers is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it's not bad. His last 4 or 5 years weren't good. So I again, so a couple great. I mean, he had a couple great years, just not quite there. Kenny Lofton, you want to look up?
Yeah, I seen his stats the other day, and it was surprisingly better than I thought.
All right, so Kenny Lofton, Joe, Rookie of the Year, second place vote. No MVPs, not even close. As MVP was a 4th place finish. He had 3 Gold Gloves, no Silver Slugger. No, he had 4 Gold Gloves, and 3 no Silver Slugger awards, no MVP votes. Okay, hits for his career, 17 seasons. He had 2,400 hits.
Okay.
Let's see. Stolen bases 622.
Right. 290 batting average.
299. Really good numbers.
Right. Again.
Yeah, I mean,
not
boy,
that.
I would tell you by the eye test, I would never have thought of him as a Hall of Famer. When I look at his numbers, it's not embarrassing. I mean, 2,428 hits. 116 triples, 130 homers, 780 RBIs.
Right. So yeah,
it's not overwhelming, Joe. I would tell you no if I had to put a vote in.
Yeah.
I would say no. I like the 300 average. He was only he averaged 30 doubles a year, which is pretty good. 9 triples a year, which is not bad. He hit leadoff, so 60 RBIs doesn't bother me. 50 stolen base. I mean, the numbers are good.
Right.
It just Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That's what happens. You have this. If you want to have another Hall of Fame in a different city and call it the Hall of the Very, Very Good, yeah, these players are gonna go there.
Just call it the Baseball Museum. You can call it the Baseball Museum and feature these guys in their great moments and the great teams. But if you're calling it the Hall of Fame, to me, it just stands out. When you look at the first few classes that went, and guys were, Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Lou Gehrig and Tris Speaker and, the immortals of the game. When Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio don't get 100% of the vote, when Tom Seaver doesn't get 100% of the vote, that means there's a standard to it. That means somebody said there was something about those guys who were absolutely Hall of Famers. I mean, Mickey Mantle's Hall of Famer. Can I say he struck out too many times? Yeah. But his team won how many World Series? The guy hit 536 home runs, was one of the best players of his era. But you want to knock something? He didn't get 100% of the vote. Right. So to me, there has to be a standard And those guys were immortals, and they had a hard time getting in. You're putting in these guys now on these fucking ridiculous committees, Joe. It's ridiculous.
Mickey Mantle doing that all on 16 operations.
Yeah, listen. I mean, listen. Joe DiMaggio didn't get in the Hall of Fame. The guy had more walks for his career than strikeouts. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
I mean, he had 360 strikeouts in his career. It's crazy.
He had 360 homers and 360 strikeouts. I mean, think about how insane that is. I mean, guys are striking out 150 times a season now. The kid Volpe for the Yankees struck out 167 times this year. This is a guy playing shortstop for the Yankees. Hits 210. 210. Now, I like Volpe. I think the Yankees are screwing him up the way he's swinging. Different story. But the guy struck out 167 times. 2 seasons, he'd have as many as DiMaggio had for his career. It's just a different era. I mean, same thing for Yogi Berra. Go look up Yogi Berra. The guy never struck out.
Right.
So, again, it's not always about the numbers. It's about what you saw. That's why I always say, Joe, when I make a list, I can't do a list with guys I never saw play. Yes, Babe Ruth's a Hall of Famer. Yes, Lou Gehrig's a Hall of Famer. Yes, Wayne Gretzky's a Hall of Famer. There are guys, yes, Gordie Howe's a Hall of Famer. Those guys. I never saw them play. I'll take their word for it. But I can't vote for a guy, or I can't put a guy that I didn't see him play the majority of his career.
I wanted to ask, we have like 15 minutes left. I wanted to ask you this question, and this is just my opinion. The greatest players of a franchise.
Oh.
So now I know you're going to go with the Yankees. You're going to go Ruth, right? But to me, I believe it almost has to be a player who spent his whole career with one franchise. I don't know if you agree with that.
I do, and to be honest with you, Joe, over the last couple of years, our friend and my partner on Thursday nights, Jeff, he's a huge Lou Gehrig guy. We celebrate Lou Gehrig Day. They have that every year in baseball.
His numbers are crazy, Tom.
Yeah, and I would tell you that if Babe Ruth didn't play for the Yankees, Lou Gehrig would be thought of as probably the best player of all time. If you look at his numbers, it is just mind-boggling to think how late. I mean, if he didn't get sick, you'd almost have to wonder what he did. The guy was driving in 157 runs a year. I mean, just amazing numbers.
Crazy.
So I do agree with you. Again, if you play 1 year someplace, I can live with that. But if you play 4 or 5 years, 7 years of your career other places, which Ruth played for the Red Sox and then played for the Braves later on, you have to. If you're matching up against a guy who played his entire career. So if I was picking for the Yankees, it's got to be Gehrig. He played his entire career as a New York Yankee. All his numbers are Yankees. I would vote Lou Gehrig as the greatest Yankee of all time. And that's not knocking Ruth, but to me, you got to spend 99% of your career with a team to be in that spot.
Yeah, I think it's got to be I look at the Baltimore Orioles. Now, he had some great players.
Sure.
Is it Frank Robinson who spent time with the Reds and the Orioles, or is it going to be Cal Ripken Jr.?
Wow. You know what, Joe? That's a really great question, because I would have immediately said Frank Robinson.
Right.
But you're right. He spent time other places. I guess that's something. I would love to. We should put that in the book sometime. I mean, to kind of go back and have the argument. Maybe we'll do American League one week and the National League another week, and kind of debate who's the greatest of. Are we keeping it to what we've seen, or can we go all-time history?
Well,
I think you got to go all time, because it would be unfair if you didn't.
How about next week we'll do the National League?
Okay, so we're gonna take. Now it gets a little funky. Montreal Expos became, are we keeping it to the current teams today? We could just use current teams today.
Well, they became the Nationals.
Correct. So now is it Montreal? Because Montreal Expos, to me, it could be Andre Dawson. If it's the Nationals, is it the Washington Senators and the Minnesota Twins? Are we just doing today's current teams and their current history.
Montreal could also be Gary Carter to some people.
Correct. No, I'm just using it as an example. You're right. It could be Gary Carter. A lot of people. I'm just saying is, like the Diamondbacks, they have a short history. Okay, the Diamondbacks are that's it. The Florida Marlins have a short history. It's going to be simple, but it's the ones where you have the Boston Braves, the Atlanta Braves. I mean, do we just keep it to the best player on the Cleveland Indians and because they became the Guardians? That's my point, Frankie. So are we doing all the teams? Obviously the Brooklyn Dodgers and the LA Dodgers are the same team, but to me the Washington Senators, and then they become the Minnesota Twins. Are we doing Washington Senators greatest players and the Minnesota Twins? Frank Howard,
like a Frank Howard for them, probably. Then
Minnesota, that's the point.
You got guys like Peru.
Yeah. So I think we should just do based on if they've been two teams in their history, that's fine. You can do it. I guess I don't know. That's it. I'm confusing myself on that one now.
I know because there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of teams.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I think just to me, do we leave the Expos out of it and just leave it the Washington Nationals, or do we consider the Montreal Expos and the Washington Nationals one team?
Well, look at the Braves.
Right.
The Braves played in 3 different cities.
Correct. That's yeah. So that it gets a little funky. But I listen. Let's just take the teams as they are now, and you can use anybody and their history any way you want, and we'll do best player. From each National League team, who you think is the greatest player from each one of those teams. We'll do National League next week.
And I'm thinking now of a couple. Without saying, a couple of my picks are going to be guys who didn't spend their whole year, their whole career, because it just like if I mean, I'll just throw one out there. If we're talking about a Met, it's got to be Seaver, no?
I would agree with you, but again,
he played for the Angels. He played for the Reds.
Yeah. Again, so that's the rub. So you're going to have to make your case for a guy who played for the Mets for 10 years.
Right.
So I mean that's a great question. So that
next week we'll do National League. National League next week.
Fine.
National League.
I got one for you. So how do you do the Astros? They were a National League team forever, not the American League team. Do we just consider their history?
I'm trying to think of Astros. My God, I mean,
you
go Bagwell. You go Bagwell.
I don't know. It's a good question. I'd have to really think about that one. There are certain teams that think about it. The Astros were never a great team till recently, so their history. There's going to be a lot of teams where they have a lot of guys who got in there were good players for a short amount of time. So you're going to have to dig through it. And then you're going to have teams that have long histories, like the Yankees, like the Braves, like the Red Sox, the Dodgers, who have a ton of history. And you're going to have to pick one guy out of those teams.
All right, let's try it.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. I'll be curious to see how many guys we agree on. And again, there's no criteria. If you think Frank Robinson is the greatest Oriole of all time, but he played only 7 years there, then he's the greatest player of all time. It's your criteria, not mine. There's no set thing. You can pick whoever you want. I will tend to choose if I have two guys who are close and one guy's spent 99% of his career there, and the other guy kind of drifted in and left. And here's the other question: do you take Frank Robinson's stats as a player all told, or just with the team?
Just with that team.
That's the problem. But that's the rub. So are you taking the guy's career or his career with the team? That's questions you have to answer, Joe. I can't.
We'll look at Pete Rose. He's the Reds and then the Phillies.
Correct. So
he's even Expos for a year.
Is his stats? Are you taking his entire career stats against a guy like Johnny Bench who played his entire career there?
Right.
All right. Or are you taking just his red stats versus Johnny Bench's red stats and calling it a day? So
well, if it's one franchise, I think we have to take like Babe Ruth is going to get Boston and the Reds. I mean, and the Yankees. So it's tough. I just think whatever you think and I think, we have to go with that.
That's it. That's exactly it. So you have to have your own criteria. What constitutes a great player, and what constitutes to me, it's got to be a guy who plays most of his career for a team, because it's hard to then say, well, those 5 years his stats went down. Look at Reggie Jackson. Is Reggie Jackson a great Yankee? Was he a great A? He had time with the Angels. As far as the A's go, Reggie Jackson may be the greatest A of all time, but he was only there 8 or 9 years.
Well, you got maybe like a Vita Blue.
Correct. That's so. Right. Then as a pitcher versus a fielder, it's a tough. This is going to be tougher than you think.
Yeah, I know it is already.
But you have to say, and a lot of it comes down, comes down to championships. It comes down to perception. So it'll be fun. Well, I'll put it on the script for next week. I got one last thing, Joe. We got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
One last thing for me, and if you can end it with any way you want. 5 out of the 6 teams that went to the postseason this year got knocked out. Won the division and went to the postseason. Got knocked out earlier than the championship series. Only the Astros made it as a division winner this far. Regular season, do you manage seeing that? If you're a manager, do you still run hard to try to win your division, or do you just say, let me get a playoff spot and set my rotation, give my guys days off? Do you manage it differently? If Joe Gansas was a manager next year, seeing what happened this year, would you manage your season differently?
No.
So you're going full speed to win the division regardless.
Yeah, let's play baseball. Let's play baseball. See what happens. But I think if, just in my opinion, if you start thinking like that and managing like that, it's just for one reason. I understand you want to save your rotation or
think about it. Yeah, think about it, Joe. If you're in the middle of September and you've guaranteed yourself a wild card spot, any one of the 3, which I'm not a huge fan of wild card spots, but okay, you've guaranteed yourself. Do you say, all right, let me not overtax my starters, or let me go easier on my bullpen and let them rest a little bit and be sharper, or be more rested for the playoffs, and don't worry about winning the division, because obviously winning the division doesn't guarantee anything.
It just gets you that bye.
Right, and look what happened after the bye.
I understand.
The Brewers got blown out. The Dodgers got blown out. So I'm saying, do you go like the Astros? The other teams had to play straight through, busted their ass, and Texas, the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, they all played all these games, struggled to get into the playoffs, and look where they are now. So
the only thing I would say, if you have somebody who's injured or hurt, that's a different scenario. You want to rest that player. I get that in a way.
Okay.
But as far as changing your whole mentality as a manager, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think it's a tough situation. I think it's a tough spot. I say you go out there and you win that game. You always win the game right in front of you. Don't play for tomorrow. I've seen managers say, "Oh, I want to rest my guy for tomorrow." There is no tomorrow. You got to win today. So I'm always of the mindset you go out and win today's game, and you don't worry about tomorrow's game tomorrow.
Yeah, play the game, and then you say to yourself, especially this year, I know that athletes are creatures of habit, and they were saying sometimes how that 6 or 7 days off puts them, out of flow.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
No, I think you can, Joe. I think you get used to playing 5, 6, 7 days a week, and then all of a sudden you shut down for a week. I don't care how much you take live batting practice and all that stuff. There is a little bit of rust that sets up from that, and you got to get back into that mentality. So I think if you're a professional, you're a professional, but there is something to be said for having a week downtime, and then crank it up, and then being another team that's played every day. And again, this postseason so far, it played out pretty much that way. Your teams that sat around got beat, and the teams that played every day, kept winning.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I like to just play and manage each game, and don't worry about the next game. Yet just Yeah, I think you can get into trouble that way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I've seen too many managers say, "Well, why didn't you bring so and so?" Well, I want to save him for the next day. I needed, and to me, you got to win today. You can't worry about winning tomorrow. Win today's game. If that means you got to use your entire bullpen, your best pitcher, you can't lose today to
Oh,
save a guy for tomorrow. You just got to win today's game.
you got to have you have to have this mentality as a pitcher in the playoffs to have this different kind of arm, a rubber arm sometimes.
Well, I think that's a different story. And teams will go out and recruit guys who have rubber arms for the playoffs. And I get that. Guys like Ramiro Mendoza who could pitch every day, for the Yankees back in the night. There are guys who could just fire it up every day and might not be the greatest pitcher, but shit happens and you're able to go out there and at least give your team innings. Yeah, that's what you do. But I'm not a big fan of shutting it down. But I gotta tell you, the way this postseason came out, you almost have to think I'm not that concerned about winning the division every year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. We should see what happens tonight and the rest of this week. Next week we'll have the World Series starts after next week. When does it start?
Starts next Friday night. We'll be a game or two into the World Series by the time we get on the air next Sunday.
Good, Tom. Great show. Joe Gansas, everybody who checked in, Frank Catalano, Pat Cooper, everybody else checking out. We appreciate myself, Tommy Florio on Diamond Talk. Tom, great show, man.
Thank you, Joe. Great job as always by you. It's fun to get up on a Sunday morning, Sunday football morning, and talk baseball and see what jerseys or what uniform Joe's going up in each week. I think by next season, Joe will have the entire collection, and we'll be doing costume changes right in the middle of the show.
Next week, I'm gonna wear number 7 for you on the Yankees.
There you go. Looking forward to it already, Joe.
Good.
Well, listen, Joe, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll talk and we'll get set up for next. And guys, enjoy the baseball. Two great games coming up at you tonight and tomorrow night. So go out there and have some fun. Enjoy the baseball season.
Tom, I'll talk to you soon, brother.
You got it, pal. All right, buddy. Take care.
Have a good day. All right.